Hey, what's up? My name is Daniela and welcome to a new video. Today I want to talk about some fall book recommendations, and you will like these books if you also enjoy reading books that are cozy, witchy, maybe some of them slightly paranormal, a bit scary but not overly scary. I'm going to be talking about these kinds of books across several genres and several age groups, so without further ado, let's look at the list. First, I want to recommend the Exact series by Ellen Sterling. So this is an adult romance witchy series that currently has 3 books out. I have read 2 of them and I really enjoyed both of them. In the first book we follow a witch named Vivian who 9 years ago accidentally cursed her ex-boyfriend. And this ex-boyfriend then moved out. Now he's coming back into town, and because he's cursed, which he doesn't know, things in town kind of become chaotic and they have to team up and solve the situation. I really love the atmosphere of the small witchy town, and the romance is fun and steamy. I enjoyed the second book in the series, which is called The Kiss Curse, even more. In this one we follow the cousin of Vivian and also a brother of the guy from the first book, who is part of the ancient family that originally established the town. On a similar note, I also want to recommend A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon by Sarah Hawley. This is also a series. It is called Glimmer Falls, and there are also currently 3 books out, but I have only read the first one so far. I will read the second one very soon, but for now I can only speak for the first one. So in this book we follow Marielle, who is a full-blown adult, but she's still quite under the influence of her mother, who is displeased that Marielle took an interest in plant magic instead of, you know, some sort of more serious magic. So Marielle doesn't always do such a good job when it comes to other spells, and one time she accidentally summons a demon and he actually can't leave before he convinces her to do some really bad, you know, bargain, which obviously she doesn't want to do. I would say that this book is quite more dramatic than the previous series I mentioned. There is a lot going on in both the relationship and Marielle's familial relationships, but still it is very fun, very steamy, and I would recommend it as a fun witchy romance. Then I want to recommend some cozy books that are perfect for reading in the autumn, and the first one is Legends and Letters by Travis Baldree. So this is a cozy fantasy book in which we follow an orc named Viv, and she used to slay monsters for a living, but now she's trying to establish a cafe in a town that doesn't know what coffee is. So it's a lot about her entrepreneurial efforts, finding a new community. Her past kind of comes to haunt her a little bit, but yeah, it's mostly cozy. There's a little bit of sapphic romance in it as well, but it's not focused on romance. So yeah, I really recommend this for amazing cozy vibes with a lot of coffee and cinnamon rolls, and yeah, it's just a warm hug. Next, I want to recommend a book that might not seem autumnal per se, but for me this kind of book is also perfect for the autumn, and that's kind of the slice of lifey, contemplative, existential crisis books that also have some cozy elements. And I have here What You Are Looking For Is in the Library by Michiko Ayama, and this is a collection of short stories about characters who appear at a crossroad in life. They are confused about how to proceed, and they find their way into this library, and there's this librarian figure who will point them in the direction of some books that might help them. For me, this kind of book is just kind of cozy, and there's something satisfying about, you know, characters getting unstuck and finding a new way in life. Then I want to recommend some middle grade books that I think are perfect for the autumn. So first we have the Nevermore series. So in this series we follow Morrigan, who is a cursed child, and she is supposedly supposed to die on her 11th birthday, but instead she is whisked away into this magical land, and she has to compete in these trials to get into this prestigious society. And then she also goes to magical school. There's also a talking cat. Morrigan goes to live in this enchanted hotel. So yeah, I just think it's peak fall vibes. Then I also want to recommend City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. So this is her middle grade, and I actually didn't really love any other Victoria Schwab's books. Like, they weren't bad, but I just ended up being quite disappointed. But with this one, that's my favorite by her, and I thought it was really charming. It is a series called Cassidy Blake, but I have only read this first volume. So in the series we follow a girl named Cass, and she once almost drowned, and since then she can pull back the veil and kind of peek into the world of the dead. And her best friend is a ghost, and her family goes to Edinburgh, and there obviously they go for some adventures with ghosts. For me, this was the perfect book for the autumn because it was paranormal but also for kids, so that's the level of scary I can handle. I also listened to the audiobook, and yeah, I really clicked with the narrator's style. So yeah, I would also recommend the audiobook. Next, I have a historical fantasy standalone, which is, you might have guessed it, Babel by R.F. Kuang. So in this book we follow a bunch of students who were picked to study translation studies at the Oxford University. In this world there's this really interesting magic system where you take a piece of silver or some metal and you write a word, and on the other side you write a translation, and thus you can manipulate the matter. And the book talks a lot about colonialism and some scary history. I think this book is perfect for the fall because, you know, you have the academia vibes, and also it's set at Oxford and it's often like gloomy and misty. Next, I have a book that might be, again, a bit atypical for autumn recommendations maybe, but it is the type of book that is paranormal and kind of, you know, existential, like what is my life? And that is The Husbands by Holly Gramazio. So in this book we follow this woman who is single, but one day she comes home and there's her husband who just kind of appeared from her attic, because her attic is enchanted, and every time a husband of hers goes up, another one comes down. And every time that happens, her life also changes. Like, she might have a different job or different decorations at home, and her life is, you know, quite different with each of these guys. And I really love this book. It was so fun following this character and seeing how she deals with this often not very desirable situation. Next, I want to mention a historical paranormal mystery book, and that is The Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. So in this book we follow our main character who appears at this mansion, and turns out that he has to figure out who killed Evelyn Hardcastle. But the problem is that he realizes that he's in a loop, and each day repeats itself, and each day he wakes up in somebody else's body from the party that is gathered at this mansion. So this book is really atmospheric, a little bit creepy, and while I didn't love the ending, I immensely enjoyed the journey that led towards it. So yeah, I would really recommend it as an atmospheric read. Next, I want to mention some classics. So first we have Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. So this is a beloved classic for a reason. I read it quite a few years ago, so I should probably reread it. So in this book we follow our main character who remains unnamed throughout the book, and she marries this guy whose wife died. And when she moves in to their previous house, she finds out that the wife kind of lingers there even though she's dead. And then it also gets a bit dramatic, but yeah, it's very atmospheric again. And I also want to say that if you read and liked Verity by Colleen Hoover, you might really like Rebecca, because Colleen Hoover, I think, was quite inspired by that one. Like, I can see so many similarities between those two stories. Then I also want to mention Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. So this is one of my least favorite books by Jane Austen, but still, it is Jane Austen and it is good. So this book kind of has two parts. In the first part we go to balls and there's the typical like gossip drama. I enjoyed that. And then we go to a guy's house, and there the main character gets quite delulu, and it's kind of a parody of some gothic novels. I don't want to say too much about this one, but yeah, one of the reasons why it wasn't one of my favorites is because the main character, Catherine, is really naive and, you know, not so smart as other Jane Austen characters, which I guess is also like part of the intent. But it is sometimes quite like secondhand embarrassment to read about. But still, I would recommend it. It is quite short, and if you want to read some seasonal classics, this is a good choice. And then as a bonus, I want to recommend a Czech book, which is something I don't do very often, mostly because very few books have been translated into English, but this one has, and it is seasonal, you know, appropriate for the autumn, and that is Everyday Spooks by Karel Michal. So this is a collection of short stories. It was published in 1961. And it basically makes fun of the communist regime. It is a satire kind of pointing out how nonsensical the regime was. There's a talking cat, there is a grumpy ghost, and yeah, I think it's quite fun. So there you have it. Those are my fall recommendations. So let me know if you have read any of these books, or if you are intrigued to pick up any of these books, or let me know what your favorite fall book is. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!